Tonight, let's just start with what's actually happening. Indefinite, unending troops in the streets. Military rule. If that sounds harsh, if it sounds even hyperbolic, and we all know the media sometimes can seem that way, that is the update to what Donald Trump is already doing, but what he now says quite clearly out in the open he wants to continue to do, which is to have the troops in the streets through next year. So while you can debate whether this or that city has this or that problem that could be fixed in a week or two or a month, now he's just saying, no, he wants the troops out in the streets for a long time. I can't say indefinite. I mean, eventually this term comes to an end. He's a lame duck second-term president, but thousands of National Guard troops already patrolling Washington are receiving these formal extended orders. And here's how they're reported. Quote, open-ended. I'm going to leave this up for a second because, again, we live in a time where people debate each other and you say, well, was the news anchor, was he exaggerating? Is this against Trump? No, this is what they say they want. It is un-American in the sense that our Constitution forbids quartering soldiers and having soldiers in our lives and cities indefinitely. But it is literally what the extension now is. So Trump's National Guard D.C. deployment extends into next year without any basis that we would know. There's not some ongoing occupation or terrorism or riots that we would normally use the Guard for. There's not some giant unrest, ongoing basis, but the extension is, quote, open-ended until the mission is considered complete, which is up to the government. The Pentagon is ordering the Guard to also create what they're calling quick reaction forces, and this would be all over the place, in every state, where 500 soldiers and groups will get non-lethal training in crowd control, handling of detainees, use of batons, stun guns, and body shields. That, according to the Wall Street Journal's reporting, an outlet, of course, owned by Rupert Murdoch, part of the Fox News empire, also getting sued by Donald Trump right now. But that's the Journal's take. So even for those skeptical about where the sourcing is coming from and whether this is all as bad as it sounds, I can tell you, according to the Journal, it is as bad as it sounds, because while training is generally a good thing, and a lot of people advocate that anyone doing policing or crowd control should be trained, remember, we're talking about the military. And there are a bunch of other more fitting layers of government that are actually already trained to do that work. It's the local police. Sometimes it's the state marshals. It's the people who report up locally to your local governor and representatives, which again is in the Constitution, that policing power should first always be as close to the people as possible. There are federal crimes, and they are, of course, investigated by the FBI, but when you deal with most crimes, it's your local police that you're dealing with in your local courts. That's how it's always been. So it is noticeably odd, against the backdrop of the president also wanting an indefinite presence in the capital of the military, that now they want the military to be able to do more of this. How's it going? Well, we've had scenes of violence that raise the question of whether it is the presence of some of the agents themselves that are causing the danger in these local places they're patrolling. There is video surfacing of an ICE agent basically assaulting a 57-year-old woman during lawful First Amendment protected protests of what ICE was doing in Colorado, arresting another individual. And this eventually came to a head, apparently because the woman was sort of, you might say, trolling or badgering the agent. Remember, whether you agree with how people talk to the police or the federal agents in this country, that's your right, your First Amendment right. You can criticize them. You can ask them questions. This is the exchange.
Show your face. Oh, dude. You can't take my phone. You cannot. Oh, that's illegal, sir. That's kidnapping. Hey! Stop that Hey! You need to get off of her right now. Get the off her. You stole her phone. Hey!
And you can see it go forward like that. It is a disturbing image. And while we always caution when we do reporting that you have to look at the before and after, this is a clip. If this were a court of law, you would need to know more before what you could say whether the agent there had violated the law. It certainly doesn't look like responsible patrol and policing. And most of these federal agents aren't usually, as I reminded you, dealing with local policing. So maybe they're making more mistakes, violating policy, hurting people. And maybe this work should go back to the normal process of local policing. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker asking the DHS, as Nicole Wallace recently reported, to pause operations at least during the Halloween celebration.
I've sent a letter to Kristi Noem and to the Department of Homeland Security leadership asking them to pause all of their federal agent operations for the entirety of the Halloween weekend. I'm asking for basic human decency. Show us this is about something other than you just causing mayhem.
The governor there alleging that they are trying to cause mayhem. Now, a lot of these agents have a job. They work for the federal government, and they're being sent these places. And some of them may just be trying to do the job and get by. It is a fact that when you look at these situations, for every terrible video, there may be 100 other agents honestly just trying to get through the day. But the policies are suspect to begin with. The Constitution does not view federal power as something that is the first resort for policing the public, nor the military, which is supposed to protect us from foreign enemies and protect the borders and protect us in war. Constitution does not view the military as the place for a president to bend the people to his will. I'm joined by Reverend Al Sharpton, who's the host of Politics Nation on MSNBC. He's the founder of the National Action Network. He's, of course, a longtime civil rights activist and around New York. He's known Donald Trump or all the different versions of Donald Trump. What do you see in this bending of military powers?
I think that Donald Trump is having his ultimate dream of having the trappings of a ruler/dictator, because there's really no evidence that there's a functional reason, for example, for Washington, D.C., for the military and the guards to stay there till next year. There's not been any roundup of a lot of people there that should not have been there illegally. There have been incidents, as we saw in Colorado. Sure. There was another one in Chicago. So you have to say they're not doing this to stem a tide of crime or of illegal people there. So what are you doing? You're feeding his self-image that I am king. That's why I wanted the military parade that nobody came to. That's why in the middle of a government shutdown and people losing SNAP, I'm going to spend $300 million on a ballroom because I am king. And that's what we're looking at. And the sickness of it is that the citizens are paying for themselves being the victims of this kind of delusional power.
Yeah, these are your tax dollars. I wonder about whether you call it existential, that's a nice word, or absurdly hypocritical premise of all this for Trump. Because they say it's an emergency. They say it's a rebellion. They say it's unrest. But if it were any of those things, why don't we see that? Why isn't there evidence of that? And in the case of D.C., as emphasized, it can't just be an emergency forever, unending into next year. If you go to D.C., and you and I are there all the time, we got reports from there, they got a lot of soldiers around, but it's a pretty quiet, peaceful streets.
And when you look at the fact, take D.C., for example, when I've been in and out of there, they're mostly in Georgetown and in other areas that there's not only high crime, there's not a lot of, quote, illegal people there. So what emergency? When did the emergency start? Where does it end? And how do you gauge the emergency? Oh, but we're really not there for an emergency. It's all kinds of window dressing. And again, it's to play to his ego that he's a military ruler and that he is in charge. And it's also to try and assuage the public that they're doing something. Yeah. And I think that we really need to be more vocal about this. And taxpayers, particularly now when we're seeing shutdowns and SNAP money, I mean, we're seeing real problems.
Well, that goes to the protest, which is something you've done your whole life. Rachel's talked about the power of it. I've heard you say, do you want to be a thermometer or a thermostat? Right? Because you can change the temperature. And the Supreme Court and these courts, they have rules. But everyone's noticed that sometimes they look around and they're trying to get a sense of where the country is. And the court right now is blocking Chicago, and they're not, the Trump administration's not violating that. They're following that, and these troops have an obligation to follow that. But the Washington Post reports Supreme Court asked for more briefs on the Chicago deployment. The justices won't rule at least till mid-November. which leaves Trump's troop deployment blocked until they rule, because that's what the lower courts have done. Where does that fit in? That the protests, no kings, people saying this is not okay, this is not American, as the courts look around and figure out what's the breaking point. And in fairness, I want to say, you don't just slap the president's hand the first day of a deployment. I don't care what party. If the president on day one does something with the military, throughout our history, you usually leave it. But on day 30 and day 60, the courts eventually are going to have to adjudicate.
No, I think that the marches, the protests, whether it was no kings, whether it's been other union protests, whether it's what we did on the Wall Street protest, that is necessary. If you look at American history, just the last half century, civil rights movement, we got the Civil Rights Act of 64, Civil Rights, Voting Rights Act of 65, by marching in Birmingham, by marching in Selma, Alabama. We didn't get it in the cloakroom in the Capitol. The same thing with women's movements. The women's liberation movement in the streets is what changed the laws. Same thing we've seen in terms of war and poverty. So I think that it is the eruption of these movements of different races, different ages, that will make the courts and everybody has to say, wait a minute, we've got to look at this more fairly. And